You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It's October the 10th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, your psychedelics and cannabis educational news source found here at paceradio.net. Yeah, I had to do just before the show, and I forgot to hit that button to put us on the screen. But the show must go on, right? So how you doing, Glenn?
I'm doing great, Al. I'd be doing a lot better if it was warmer outside, but it is sunny at least.
Yes, it does look sunny out your windows. But yeah, I know what you mean by it could be warmer outside. It's time to bring the shows inside because it's cooler out there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Before we get going, I gotta say happy birthday to my wife Gail. Today is her birthday.
Happy birthday, Gail.
Yeah,
How old are you, Gail?
29.
29 again.
29 again.
You always got to ask women how old they are as soon as you know it's their birthday.
Correct. Yeah, and that's all. That's what I've been told is the proper response. 29.
Yeah. I heard that one. My mom said that for years and years. 29.
Oh yeah, I have a friend that says that all the time.
Yeah, and you're married to her.
No, it was.
Oh, okay.
I'm still married to Gail though. All righty. Well, what do you say? We get on with the news. We got the birthday greetings done.
Sounds good.
All right. First story up of the day comes to us from StratCan. Headline says OCS to open illegal pop-up cannabis shop in Toronto.
The OCS will be hosting a fake cannabis store in Toronto on the 6th anniversary of legalization to highlight the need for consumers to distinguish between legal and illegal stores. Beginning on October 7th, 2024, the Ontario Cannabis Store will host a 4-day Buzzkill pop-up, a retail space designed to look like an illegal cannabis store within the heart of the largest city in Canada at 474 Queen Street West. It's designed to look like an illegal cannabis store.
Yeah, exactly. And it is in a retail space. But it is just a pop-up store, so it's not permanent. Obviously, they say 4 days. So the OCS goal is to help educate consumers on the difference between legal, tested cannabis products and those that can be found in an array of illegal and unlicensed stores operating in the province. They say, according to Amanda Winton, she's the manager of communications at the OCS, she says, with this campaign, the intention is to reach adult consumers who may not realize they shop at illegal dispensaries or who may believe that all cannabis is created equal in a way that captures their interest and creates conversation. We want to drive the message that shopping legal means shopping legal means shopping safe.
And I got to dispute that a little bit because we've read many stories and we have one of our advertisers that does testing in their shop, which is considered an illegal shop, but the testing there is better than any government testing. So,
all right,
I don't know where you're buying it. How's that?
You know exactly. Know where you're getting your medicine from, and just like the legal, they've had some issues as well as the legal end of things with everything from mold to recalls. So
it's true. I mean, you just got to watch what you're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of cannabis products, those who visit the store will find mock packaging that highlights the risk of illegal cannabis. One example is a satirical beverage called Pepsi cider, which reads, "What gives this cannabis-infused cider its signature oomph? We like to think it's love, but realistically, it's probably our unregulated use of toxic pesticides. That's what it is. Don't worry, though. We're pretty sure it doesn't have any long-term effects."
I figured that's what it was when they called it pesticide.
Pesticide,
That was going to be pesticide. Now, the pot. Yeah, go ahead.
The Buzzkill pop-up is part of a broader Buy Legal campaign. The OCS launched on October 7th, and it'll run through November 30th. The buylegal.ca page is the OCS website that has complimentary information emphasizing the need for third-party testing of cannabis products, something generally not found in products in the illicit and unregulated market.
Well, there's even problems in the test results in the legal market. So,
yes, definitely.
Yeah. The page also includes information on how to distinguish a legal, licensed cannabis store in Ontario from some of the many new unlicensed stores that have been proliferating in different parts of the province, especially Toronto and Ottawa, often operating within a few steps of a legal store. The Buzzkill campaign, meanwhile, takes a more tongue-in-cheek approach.
At Buzzkill, we're all about bringing you the best selection of cannabis products from sources unknown and untested. Reads a page on the OCS website. So what if we don't have the right paperwork? Just roll with it. Whether it's a mystery strain or an edible with a surprise kick, we've got you covered, as long as you don't ask too many questions. As part of the campaign, OCS has launched a takeover of the Reddit page, the OCS, an otherwise unofficial review page for products available through the OCS. The takeover includes numerous ads promoting the campaign to shop safe, shop legal.
A 2022 survey from the National Research Council on behalf of the OCS and the OPP showed that 86% of the illegal cannabis edibles tested contain multiple pesticides, in many cases at levels several hundred times above the Health Canada's limits, and THC levels in those edibles were also often much lower than advertised. New Brunswick and BC have released similar testing results. Looking at illicit products, the OCLS also notes that a recent survey found that 62% of all Ontarians 19 plus ranked no quality control or assurance of product safety as one of the top 3 downsides of the illegal cannabis. The survey also noted that 2 in 3 Ontarians believe that if a cannabis store is open, it must be legal, which can allow some unlicensed producers to operate in plain sight. There you go.
And we know that there was a bunch of testing done of government sources, and most of them were wrong on the labels.
Well, let's just put it this way. The OCS has their own testing now, does their own random testing now because of the inaccuracy of the labels. And that's all legal stuff, right? It's all through the OCS. So they've started to do their own random testing because, it's not.
Isn't that funny? They're not a third party. They just suggested in that article right there that the OCS suggested that it has to be a third party doing the testing. But if the OCS is testing, they're not a third party.
They've got some company that's doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they got a company that's doing it for them. Yeah. All righty. Here we go. On to the next story. This comes to us from Entrepreneur. It says, according to a survey, government least likely to be source of information on cannabis.
A recent study in the journal Cannabis Research found that government sources are generally the least likely sources of information used by individuals looking to learn about cannabis. The government sources were the least likely sources utilized by individuals when seeking information about cannabis, according to a study published this month. In the Journal of Cannabis Research, the researchers found that 4.7% of survey respondents used government resources for cannabis information. 4.7%. Wow.
Yeah. The survey included 1,161 respondents, of which 27% reported consuming cannabis in the past year. Friends and family were the most common information sources for those surveyed, which is 35.5%, followed by websites at 34%. Healthcare providers were utilized for cannabis information by 9.3% of the respondents, but 16.5% of those surveyed who were registered medical cannabis patients said they obtained their information from a healthcare provider, while dispensary employees were the source of information about cannabis by about 8.6% of the respondents. In a big quote here, the research journal says that as cannabis accessibility increases and legality continues changing, there is a strong need for better clinician education, improved public health outreach, and improved communication between patients and clinicians about cannabis.
The survey included adults 18 and older. Gender demographics among the survey takers were nearly even, 51% identifying as female, 49% identifying as male. The researchers note that the past year, cannabis use was positively associated with all information sources except government agencies and popular media articles. Wow.
Yeah, there was, I read one of the articles, another article on the same subject, and they had a little bit more information on there, something I was going to comment back on. And unfortunately, that thought has dissipated.
Yeah. It's funny that almost nobody trusts the government information.
Yeah. And, well, look, they've been preaching prohibition all these years, saying, your necks are going to stretch. Just ask Quebec about that. But there's been all kinds of stuff that's just been so.
You'll be a heroin addict next week if you try it this week.
Yeah. So it's no wonder the government is one of the least trusted sources when it comes to cannabis. There was also the other one. It touched on how there was such a small percentage, like 5%. Of educational places had anything to do with cannabis back in 2016, like as far as like medical school, and the fact that the students going to medical school are seeking more information. They want more to be put through there. So I guess the concern would be then, would it be the government information, which people don't trust, right?
Yeah.
So, all righty. On to our next story. This one comes to us from BBC in the UK. It says, man who let cannabis farmers use home sentenced.
A man who let cannabis growers turn his rented home into a drugs farm has been sentenced. Dylan Gray, 31, took out a lease on a 4-bedroom home in Newcastle, where police found 53,000 worth of cannabis plants. The city's Crown Court heard.
Putting the house right again had cost the owner more than £18,000, the court heard. Gray was jailed for 6 months, sentenced suspended for 18 months with 150 hours unpaid work after admitting allowing the premises to be used for cultivation of the Class B drugs, which would be cannabis.
And Northumbria police found 129 plants when they raided the terrace home on Wellbrook Road in Biker on August 2022, the court heard. All 4 bedrooms had been adapted to growing rooms, with the home's electricity supply also having been tampered with, prosecutors said.
Yeah, tampering isn't good. And in mitigation, the court heard Gray of Avondale Rise in Biker had lived at the home since March of 2019, but ran into financial difficulties after the breakup of a relationship and the loss of his job. Now, Judge Carolyn Scott said Gray sublet the home to dealers in exchange for the rent being paid, as he wanted to keep the property in case his family wanted to move back in.
And she said while he may not have known the extent of the farm, it was undoubtedly apparent what was happening there was illegal, and it was, in essence, a commercial activity. Judge Scott told Gray that he had been reckless and knowingly shut his eyes.
Gray was also ordered to pay £1,000 court costs, but no compensation was demanded, as the landlord was taking legal action against him to recoup the cost of the damage, the judge says. So he'll be looking for money from another court appearance, probably.
Yep.
All righty. On to our last story before we go to break. Wow, we ripped through those early stories really quick.
Oh, yeah, we did. Wow.
We did. I know. I just looked at the clock and went, wow. All right. Well, hey, if we get done early, I got a little video I want to play at the end. So,
Perfect.
yes, exactly. All right. And I think you will really enjoy it as well. All right, here we go. Next story. Headline from Psych Post says DMT Harmine combination elevates transistence and insight during meditation.
A recent study published in the Journal of Psychopharmacology highlights the potential synergy between meditation and psychedelics. Meditators who received a combination of DMT and Harmine reported greater mystical experiences, non-dual awareness, emotional breakthroughs, and lasting increases in well-being compared to those being given a placebo. DMT, which is dimetriptyl. I can't say that.
That's why I don't.
We're going back. DMT is a powerful psychedelic compound that includes intense, short-lived experiences of altered consciousness. It is naturally found in many plants, including those used in the traditional Amazonian brew, ayahuasca. DMT is known for producing vivid visual hallucinations, profound mystical experiences, and a temporary breakdown of the sense of self.
However, when consumed alone, DMT is quickly broken down by the body, limiting its effects. To prolong these effects, Harmine, a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, is combined with DMT. Harmine slows down the breakdown of DMT, allowing it to remain active longer in the body. Now, meditation and psychedelics are both known to promote psychological insight, emotional regulation, and well-being. But they have typically been given that DMT, when combined with Harmine, can produce long-lasting effects similar to those reported in ayahuasca ceremonies. The researchers wanted to investigate whether DMT Harmine could enhance meditation in a similar way.
Meditation and psychedelics have attracted increasing interest from science and society over the past few years, mostly for their respective potential benefits for mental health and well-being, said study author Daniel Meeing, a cognitive scientist affiliated with the Psychedelic Research and Therapy Development Group at the University of Zurich. Initial studies have started to look at a potential synergistic effects between meditation and psychedelics for increasing their benefits and limiting their risk of adverse effects. With this study, we explored the potential effects of DMT Harmine on mindfulness, compassion, insight, and transcendence during meditation retreat with experienced meditators. Is that mine still? The study involved 40 experienced meditators, 18 female and 22 males, who were randomly assigned to receive either the DMT Harmine combination or a placebo during a double-blind, placebo-controlled 3-day meditation retreat. The participants, with an average of over 2,400 hours of meditation experience, were recruited from various meditation traditions such as Zen and Tibetan Buddhism.
The retreat took place at a Zen meditation center in Switzerland, where participants practiced mindfulness and compassion medication through daily group sessions. On the second day, the participants or a placebo in incremental doses throughout the day. They engaged in measures were used to assess the effects of the retreat. These include questionnaires on mindfulness, compassion, insight, and mystical experiences, which were filled out before, during, after the retreat, as well as oh, you there, Glenn?
I'm here. The researchers found that participants in the DMT Harmine group reported higher levels of mystical type experiences, non-dual awareness, and emotional breakthroughs during the retreat compared to the placebo group. These participants also showed a greater increase in psychological insight 1 day after the retreat. Notably, participants in the DMT Harmine group rated their experiences as more personally meaningful and spiritually significant than those in the placebo group. At the 1 month follow-up, 45% of the participants in the DMT Harmine group rated the experience as one of the top 5 most meaningful events of their lives, compared to none of the placebo group. Wow. Similarly, 55, that's incredible, eh?
Yeah.
55% of the DMT Harmine group reported significant increase in well-being for or life satisfaction compared to 15% in the placebo group.
There you go. Yeah. I just so you know, I shut down the story because I was getting too many pop-ups and everything was just going crazy. And actually, at one point there, I looked at the screen and there was nothing on the screen at all other than our logo and behind us. I thought, what's going on? So I shut the page down. There's all those pop-ups that come into play. All right, we're gonna take a break, pay our bills, and you'll be able to hear from those who make our voices louder. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We're live here at PACERadio.net.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at PACERadio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Are you looking for non-stop, continuous cannabis and psychedelic programming? If you are, then turn your browsers to 420radio.ca or paceradio.net, where you will find the 420 Pace re-rolled Saturday. Everything gets started at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have 2 lines of drinks. One is called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with, and then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, we got 4 more stories to cover for the rest of the day. We're going to go to Baltimore in the U.S. We're also going to go to the U.K. And we got an interesting study, I think, that's coming up here on cannabis since organized crime since it's been legalized. So we'll get to that shortly. But first up, we have got the story right here. Headline says Yorkville Planning and Zoning Commission votes against recommendations for cannabis dispensary special use variances during Wednesday's meeting.
And before I start, I gotta say congrats to these guys who their porta potty rental place advertised on this page here. It's called Flood's Royal Flush. You gotta love that. Some very creative person came up with that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you know, right at the very top of the page, it's all an ad for a porta potty place. Flood's Royal Flush. I thought that's really creative, you know. Yeah.
Where's this coming from? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I didn't want to go past that. I was laughing at it. So, the Yorkville Planning and Zoning Commission voted to not recommend a special use and variance changes to the PTS Corporation for their planned cannabis dispensary during Wednesday's meeting. The special use and 3 of the variances were 5 nays to 1 yay from Danny Williams, and a variance regarding the business's operating hours was 4 nays to 2 yays from Williams and Chairman Richard Vineyard. A packed Yorkville City Council chamber with many parents, students, and faculty from Parkview Christian Academy, which is located near the proposed dispensary site, applauded the outcome of the vote. PTS Corp was seeking to change in the variance to allow for a setback of 450 feet from the school instead of the 500 feet as stated in the city's ordinance. The other variances were for a modification of operating hours and an additional wall-mounted sign on the property. So for 50 feet, they shut them. That doesn't make sense.
Shut it down for 50 feet. Yeah. Vineyard says the location of the dispensary was a major issue for him, as other members of the commission agreed. P.C.E. board president Jordan Gash says he is grateful to the commission for doing their due diligence in making sure that the ordinances are rightfully upheld.
And Gash also noted that many people from the community came out to support the academy and its students, saying he is proud of those who showed up and spoke out against the special use and variances. Representative from the PTS Corp declined to comment following the meeting. I don't know why you would be proud of that. I don't even understand why you'd be against that.
50 feet. They didn't want to give up that 50 feet.
Well, I guarantee you, even if it was 50 feet back, they'd still be at the council bitching about it there.
No, yeah. I think the concern was the school.
Yeah, but
even if it met ordinance, there's that wouldn't have calmed things down. Even if it had a met calm, and that way council would have said, well, okay, it meets the ordinances, it's got to, everything's right, it meets the bylaws, we can't say no to it. But being that is that 50 feet, they're not willing, and people would have complained even if it had been 500 feet away. So.
But you wouldn't have heard a peep if it was a liquor store.
No, I know. Yeah. Well, actually, in my area, we got one less beer store now. But we got a lot more beer sellers.
Yeah.
So. Alrighty, on to the next story. Here we go. This one comes to us from StratCan. It says, "As a study looks at impacts of cannabis legalization on organized crime in Canada."
A recent study highlights how the illicit cannabis markets in Canada, especially in British Columbia and Ontario, have changed since cannabis was legalized in 2018. The report says the effort to legalize happened too quickly to address some of the more uniquely Canadian issues, like diversion from personal and designated production licenses to medical cannabis or finding a balance with Indigenous communities and provincial governments' jurisdictional challenges.
The impacts of cannabis legalization on organized crime in Ontario and British Columbia, published in the Journal of Community Safety and Wellbeing, interviews 23 experts from law enforcement, law, media, public service, and the private sector, offering numerous insights but anonymous commentaries on the topic. While quotes in the study are from the range of sources, many of them are from law enforcement officials.
The first page of the report highlights what interviewees said is an increase in long-time abuse of cannabis personal and designated production licenses for cannabis for medical purposes. While such licenses ensure Canadians who are authorized to use cannabis for such purposes have a way of accessing it outside of the commercial licensed product or producer program, diversions from these licenses for profit is also well known and documented. Although these licenses have been around for some 2 decades, several of those interviewed, notes the report, claim that abuse of these licenses has increased since cannabis was legalized in late 2018. The increase in terms of the number of illicit production sites that have licenses and the size of those production sites.
Now, according to an unnamed federal government official, they say that governments have been, I think, cautious about even talking about removing the personal and designated registrations.
Wow.
Yeah, because of the history of litigation. Yeah, you've been losing in court. That's why. There is a worry that by removing it, we might trigger more court activity and more adverse decisions. Yes, exactly. The threshold for winning that argument is really, really high. It's not going to be about organized crime and its impacts. It's going to be about your mom who has been using a designated license to let her dad grow 12 plants for your mom who needs it for end of life care. And then we're going to have to prove in court that scenario where your mom is growing 12 plants with your dad's help is so dangerous that we have to pull this away from everybody. Exactly.
Why would you ever even want to do that?
Yeah. Well, that's what would happen if they shut down the licenses. Correct. Yeah. And this has already been litigated in the courts.
Yeah. So what the hell is he talking about?
Why? Yeah. See, this is because this is a unnamed federal official.
Yeah.
And the governments won't, remove it because of all these past court cases. They know they're going to end up in court.
Yeah, and they're going to lose.
Oh yeah.
So why bot?
Well, that's why they haven't done it.
Another facet of the cannabis market covered by this study is cannabis production in Indigenous communities in Canada, with researchers speaking to Indigenous license holders operating within and outside of the federal and provincial regulations. Researchers say, based on interviews with these subjects, that the latter contains both small-scale gray zone operators as well as the presence of organized crime while operating without the approval of the communities they do business in. These types of stores and businesses are more often associated with increases in violent crimes in these communities, such as armed robberies. No instances, no nothing here.
Oh, legal stores get robbed. I read the reports often.
Yeah, it's weird.
Illicit cannabis was not on the radar before legalization, says one Indigenous community member in Ontario. There were some grow operations and houses, but nothing substantial. Now there are both illegal and legal storefronts for selling and distribution. Illegal stores on Indigenous lands have steadily increased since legalization, says a law enforcement officer in BC. Once the ones outside of the Indigenous lands were closed down, we saw them pop up there. Organized crime is associated with some of those stores, and the Indigenous governments have said they are. When Indigenous communities don't want the stores, they reach out to Canadian law enforcement to get rid of them.
And I would love to point out that there is no such thing as an illicit store on Indigenous lands.
Yeah.
This is complete BS.
There's in BC, in their law, they say that their law covers everybody, including Indigenous people.
Which is bullshit, because Indigenous land is not Canadian land.
Correct.
A third piece of the illicit cannabis market in Canada covered by the study is exports, which the paper says are primarily to the United States. Those exports have only increased since legalization, partly due to increased domestic competition from the legal market. In addition, this increased competition in the cannabis space has led some of these organized crime groups that were previously involved with cannabis production and distribution to move to psilocybin mushrooms while others have opiates.
Oh, there was a report this week about millions of dollars, I believe, that was found of Canadian cannabis that went to Hong Kong.
Wow.
Yeah. Prior to legalization, says a law enforcement officer in Ontario, you would see examples of large-scale trafficking and distribution within Canada. We don't see that anymore. Instead, most examples of sophisticated trafficking are distant for the United States. Now, as far as going forward, they say one of the negative impacts of legalization is that police have not been as invested as they used to in the cannabis investigations or prosecution, says a law enforcement officer in BC.
The study offers no specific solutions to these challenges, but highlights the need for further investigation of these different trends in the market to better understand the unique nature of Canada's evolving cannabis landscape.
No, there you go. I know, well, you know where I live. I've got I'm in between two reserves, probably 100+ stores.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the reserve that I go to is a small reserve in as for Canadian or for Ontario standards, but there's probably 20 stores on it, I estimate.
Yeah.
And every single one of them is busy as hell. And if you go to Cannabis New Brunswick, there's no freaking cars in the parking lot. There's 2 customers in these giant granite beautiful stores. They have granite countertops and they have packaging up through the wazoo, and it looks great. It blows away the beer and liquor stores here, and there's no customers.
No customers, eh?
I mean, they're making a profit finally after years.
Yeah.
But just barely. There's no customers there. They're all on the reserve.
Go on the reserve.
Yep.
All right. Well, I know the one reserve in my area, they actually lowered the speed limit of the highway from an 80 to a 50.
Wow. Is that just
because there's just so much traffic? It's just so much traffic.
Is that by Roseneath, the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. All righty, here we go. Story number 7, headline for the Marijuana Moment, says that Baltimore voters will decide on reinvesting cannabis tax dollars to support communities most harmed by prohibition at the ballot next month. Hey, this is going to sound like a good story.
Voters in Baltimore, Maryland will vote next month on a local ballot initiative that would create a city fund to support communities disproportionately impacted by cannabis prohibition before the state enacted legalization. If approved, the effort would be supported by tax revenue from cannabis sales. While the statewide legalization law provides that 35% of tax dollars derived from the 9% tax on adult use cannabis sales must go to a community reinvestment fund. Localities that are still required to separately pass legislation on how they intend to distribute any funds they receive.
Baltimore is set to receive the highest portion of that state allocated funding, as the city accounted for about 30% of the cannabis possession arrests from July the 1st, 2002 to January the 1st, 2023. The period that's being used as a baseline to distribute the dollars in the interest of advancing reparations for disproportionately impacted communities. State law defines such communities as geographic areas with over 150% of the 10-year average for cannabis possession arrests nationwide.
The Baltimore ballot measure, known as Question G, states, for the purpose of establishing a continuing non-lapsing community and reinvestment and reparations fund to be used exclusively to support the work of the Community Reinvestment and Reparations Commission to the extent that the work of the Commission is within the scope of the use limitations in I-322, Community Reinvestment and Repair, of the State Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis article. The Mayor and City Council are authorized by ordinance to provide for the oversight, governance, and administration of the fund. The Baltimore City Council passed the measure to create the amendment back in June, and it was formally added to the ballot last month. That's despite opposition from Baltimore Chief Equity Officer Dana Moore, who suggested that because the statewide fund is set to expire in 2033, that could eventually leave the city to front the costs, the Baltimore Sun reported.
Now, Council President Nick Mosby pushed back on that concern, however, arguing that the legislation established a lockbox that ensures city funds will be kept separate from the state general fund for the purposes of providing the relief to the disproportionately impacted community. This is important. This is an important step for the city to take to ensure communities just.
At the state level, Maryland saw more than 22.3 million in tax revenue from the adult use cannabis sales during the second quarter of 2024, a 52% increase compared to the prior quarter, according to state officials. The state comptroller, who's Brooke Learman, announced last month that cannabis tax dollars totaled $23,357,011 for the second quarter, up from $14,671,110 in the first quarter of the year.
So they look about 9% of that. So round figure at 10, so about $2 million for that one quarter alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
These latest figures came about 2 months after the Maryland Cannabis Administration announced that the state had reached a different cannabis milestone, with licensing retailers having sold more than $1 billion worth of legal cannabis products since the adult use market opened last July.
Not even a year.
Well, it'd probably be a year. You got to think they wouldn't sell $1 billion worth in 2 months, right?
Well, I said it opened last July.
It does say last July, I know.
Yeah.
Just like in 2 months, they sold $1 billion. Meanwhile, the governor of Maryland said in August that as the state works to build up upon its cannabis legalization law, he will continue to advocate for the sane and standard federal policy, including banking reform, so that the small cannabis businesses have access to capital.
And Governor Wes Moore, who's a Democrat, said that while he's committed to ensuring that social equity is integral to Maryland's cannabis market, and his recent mass pardon for past cannabis and paraphernalia convictions is part of it, it remains critical that federal reform advances. Yes, definitely does.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure does. It is important. Federally, it's got to keep advancing.
Well, that Safe Banking Act should change the way business is done, at least.
Well, that Safe Banking Act's been around so long, it became the Safer Banking Act.
Yeah, the Safe Banking Act from 3000 BC.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, on to our. Looks like we're going to have time to run that video that I'm going to show you that I talked about at the beginning of the show. So,
good.
Here we go. Last story of the day. And this one comes to us from The Guardian, and it says, cannabis is now legal in many U.S. states, but can the smell get you in trouble?
As states around the country continue to legalize recreational and or medical cannabis use, more are beginning to treat cannabis like alcohol when it comes to policing intoxicated driving. A recent unanimous decision by the Illinois Supreme Court found that the smell of burnt cannabis alone does not give police license to conduct a warrantless vehicle search, making it the sixth state Supreme Court to make such a ruling. In contrast, Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled the opposite just last year. They found that cannabis odor in a vehicle is probable cause to justify a search. Unlike in Illinois, adult recreational cannabis is still illegal in Wisconsin.
Oh, I wonder if that's why. Police have the right. Yeah, I wonder if because it's illegal.
Yeah.
Police have the right to search vehicles without a warrant since the 1920s, the era of alcohol prohibition. The Supreme Court in 1925 found that police could search vehicles if they had probable cause to believe drivers were transporting contraband alcohol. Even after prohibition ended, police still retained this right, which is why they can search vehicles when they suspect drivers are drunk or high. Now, Paul Savchenko, an attorney and founding partner of the Canaccord Group, which helps cannabis businesses get licensed, says that in states where cannabis is legal, courts are starting to treat it more like alcohol, recognizing that the product itself is legal, but driving while impaired with it is a crime.
And when officers are investigating a driver for DUI, the smell of alcohol is a relevant factor. However, they tend to conduct further investigations to corroborate their theory, she said. The Illinois Supreme Court decision does not allow cannabis smell to be a factor in determining probable cause, but not the only factor.
Will Garrett, a professor and chair of the Law, Politics, and Social Society program at Drake University, says, cannabis odor has been an important enforcement tool for police for a long time. Before states began to legalize adult recreational cannabis, possessing cannabis alone was a crime, so smell could justify every search.
And they've used that to search so many homes and vehicles and people. It's insane.
Yeah, exactly. You keep reading. I'm going to go let the cat in before she removes my seal.
Now the bar has been set a little bit higher, he says. Police officers must learn to recognize other signs that someone is high on cannabis because, unlike with alcohol, there is not yet an agreed upon reliable test under like a breathalyzer for cannabis. The Illinois Supreme Court decision referred to the smell of burnt cannabis specifically because Illinois also has a law requiring drivers to transport cannabis in odor-proof containers. A variety of local laws around the country require cannabis consumers to keep their smells to themselves. Last year, for example, Minnesota passed a law banning cannabis consumption in multi-family housing.
Is that personal, or is that stuff that's run by the state? Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah. Now, Christopher Strunk, an attorney who specializes in cannabis and environmental regulation, says that these laws can be problematic. Yeah, like how do you get rid of smell that's floating through the air? Especially if you're sitting out back on your deck or something, right? In my opinion, there's not necessarily a rational basis for those laws, he says, unless you really get down to smell it. It's not going to eliminate the major odor.
He added that these laws do give police or municipalities or jurisdictions that don't like cannabis an excuse to enforce it. Additionally, laws like these also tend to target more vulnerable populations such as unhoused people and people of color. Other odor-creating industries such as wineries, breweries, and landfill companies face similar pressures, says Savchenko.
What about the patient?
Yeah.
Vermont has required air pollution control permits for hard cider facilities due to its large boilers, and for whiskey distillers due to aging in wooden barrels, she explained. While laws targeting individual consumers might be selectively enforced, environmental laws such as the Clean Air Act apply to all industries that might produce a stench, including the cannabis industry. Some states, Savchenko says, require cannabis manufacturing businesses to submit an odor control smell plan before they provide them licenses. And odor is a problem up here.
I kind of understand that, and we've read stories before of people being upset when they open up a farm near them, and the odor makes them nuts.
Correct.
But how do you regulate a single person sitting on their balcony?
Well, that's where they agree that's too hard to do.
Stupidity. Still, cannabis manufacturing odors can be a huge source of community tension. Strunk pointed out that an ongoing battle in Santa Barbara County, which produces 40% of California's cannabis. Residents of the beachside town, Carpinteria, filed a class action lawsuit claiming that a sewer-like smell from several cannabis plants was causing their property values to decline. Carpinteria residents are now fighting to require cannabis facilities to obtain odor scrubbers, which cost more than $20,000 a piece to get rid of odors.
Carbon. Yeah, exactly. Now, Garrett goes on to say, any activity or business that produces an unpleasant odor may violate the law and trigger enforcement, though not every complaint leads to action. Lots of people end up living with odors like they don't like, or they tolerate them because they are produced by, say, a business that is the biggest employer in town. Yeah, when I lived in Campbellford, our town had one of our largest places for employment, which was a factory, and it let off odors. It smelled like chocolate, but it didn't all because it was a chocolate factory, right?
Yeah,
But it didn't always smell like chocolate. Believe me, like when it got burnt, it smelled to me like it was had got burnt, right? But I had lots of friends that would come into town, and when they lived in Toronto and I moved up north, that they wish they could bottle it and take it home.
Yeah. I remember when I drove an oil truck, I used to visit lots of paper factories.
Yeah.
And you could drive a lot in northern Quebec. You could drive 20 miles from the town and you'd start smelling it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the whole place would stink like it. It was horrible, but people got used to it.
All right. Now I'm going to run this video. We got time. Last Friday, I went on a road tour and did an interview on location at the workshop of the Apple.
The Apple, okay.
The Apple. This anybody doesn't know.
I just met the Apple a couple weeks ago.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah,
so there's
from you.
Yeah, exactly. There's a Apple, and then you got old school hash, and all you need is a lighter. That's it. Right? So I show you mine, but I have to get it cleaned first. So I won't show it to you. But so I went there, and I'm gonna create like a little mini documentary of the Apple, which is a hash pipe. So I've created basically a trailer for it, and I'm gonna run this, and I'll talk to you on the other side. It's about 2 minutes long. So
okay,
be right back.
This, guys, is a BT bottle with a little straw on the end of it. Okay. Back in the day, we used to have glass bottles, soda pop in glass bottles. Okay, soft drinks, and this was built for the old school hash. This is the hash that your uncles and your grandparents would get. And this is the stuff that we would all treasure whenever we could get it, because we thought it was the best stuff, because it's the constant. It was our form of concentrate. Correct. Right? When we were young, right?
Yes.
This is
To answer your question now.
Oh, here we go.
Forward. Now you're going to cut this out if it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
You just cut it out now. These are the 3 tools I use to form and shape the happles. So now once the prep work is done over on the lathe, it now has to come over to me to put the mouthpiece on and finish off the top part. So first up, I just need to clean up and close off the top that's left over. First thing I'll do is I will heat up the corner and I'll push in the Maria, which is the circular lump that acts as a stopper. Right? Whereas I'm kind of like, I'm 49 years old and I don't have time to be an artist.
You know, but each one is individual, though. There's only one of each. So it does make it art.
Oh, stop it. Okay.
There you go.
Interesting. That guy sounds like a funny guy.
He is. We had lots of laughs while I was there. Al was running the board here on StreamYard. We recorded it on StreamYard. So he was involved in it. And it was good. It was good. We had a great time. I was there for about 3 hours. Got about 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2.5 hours of video footage that I'll use in different ways. Nice. Like I said, I'll create this little mini documentary on on the Apple, as well as there'll be some video that we've got that we'll just probably maybe just put some music to, and just run it that way.
I want to see more about how it works.
Oh, how it works, the bomb.
Yeah, because you could see it lit, and he put it in the Apple.
Yeah.
And then that was it on that part.
Oh yeah.
So I want to see how it works properly.
Yeah, it's he talks about there should be a section in there that I'll be able to take where he talks about the shape, the flow.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested. I want to hear that stuff.
Yeah, I believe there is a spot in there.
Cool.
Yeah, I just didn't include it in that. That's all. just like you saw the section there of the Apple in Master's hand with the board and the nail beside it. Stay tuned.
Yeah, and I got to see them together here.
Stay tuned, because like I said, we had a good time. It was fun, and maybe again down the road sometime.
And what a great name! I wish I had that name.
The Apple, yeah. Well,
Master.
Oh, Master, yeah, Master Glass, yeah,
Master
Glass.
Master Glass
was the fellow with the goggles on and the torch. You could hear the Apple whistling as he was working on it with the torch and had it all red hot, and it was just the air movement around it. You could hear it whistling away there. So
nice.
Cool. So all right, and as you saw, he's they're busy. Let's just say they're busy. They've actually got a patent on that product now on the Apple. They produced enough of them out of the shop that they've got there. So it's good.
Nice.
All right. Anything before we depart?
Peace all.
All right. From the Legacy420.com news desk, that's the news for today. We hope you found it educational and informative. Thanks to Legacy420.com, the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, @ease.ca, and Limestone City Hydroponics.ca, and to our viewers. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at PACERadio.net.